Okay, let's get into it. The sources you shared with us today, they all seem to zero in on this really quiet shift in personal growth.
Right. The kind that happens completely under the surface.
Exactly. And I think our mission here for this deep dive is to really unpack this one powerful idea that real growth isn't about becoming, louder or more impressive to everyone else.
No, not at all.
It's about how honest you finally become with yourself.
It's a complete teardown of the whole transformation story we're always sold, isn't it?
It really is.
People are chasing this visible win, a moment they can point to and say, there, that's when I changed.
The before and after shot.
The before and after, exactly. But what the material makes so clear is that the most critical stage of change, this returning to yourself, it begins with no fanfare, no applause.
And what's the trigger for that? The sources say it's actually something really small, which I found fascinating. It starts the moment you just consciously stop abandoning yourself.
In those tiny daily moments.
Yeah, it just flips the whole script from what huge new thing do I need to build to what small part of myself am I ignoring right now?
That's the pivot. It shifts the whole focus of self-care from something you aspire to, these grand gestures or future goals, to something you can do right now.
So practical.
So we're moving away from that external performance and, well, straight into what this invisible shift is all about, this radical internal honesty.
So if it's not loud and it's not a performance, what does this invisible honesty actually look like?
Well, the sources make this really, really critical distinction here. It's the difference between being honest with the world.
Right, which, let's be honest, is usually about managing how other people see you.
100%. Versus being truly honest with yourself. And that part is, well, it's often messy, especially at first.
I can imagine.
But this internal alignment, it's the only foundation that actually lasts. I mean, if you connect this to the bigger picture, trying to perform for everyone else is just, it's exhausting.
An energy drain.
A massive one. Trying to keep up a facade of being always on, always strong, always happy for others, it's just not sustainable.
Okay, I get the theory, but let's make it super concrete for anyone listening. Can you give us a quick scenario, like where being honest with the world and honest with yourself are in direct conflict?
Absolutely. Okay, picture this. It's a scenario everyone knows. You're in a meeting or maybe just with a friend and they say something that just, it lands wrong. Or they ask you for a commitment and you just don't have the energy. The external honesty playbook demands you keep the peace. You smile, you say, it's fine, or yeah, of course I can do that.
Which is instantly abandoning yourself.
It's the definition of it. Internal honesty, on the other hand, it demands a pause. It means you actually listen to that tight feeling in your stomach or that wave of exhaustion you feel when you even think about saying yes.
So the start of this phase is really these small acts of self-protection.
Exactly. You stop forcing a smile just to make someone else comfortable. You let an awkward silence just sit there instead of, rushing to fill it.
That pause,
Yeah.
that moment before you say yes, where you actually listen to your body, that is the real signature of this phase, isn't it?
It is. You're choosing clarity over chaos, even if it means disappointing someone.
And that's so necessary.
It has to be. Because trying to keep your own peace while constantly managing everyone else's expectations, it's just impossible. The sources argue that if your foundation is built on what other people applaud, it's just not stable.
It's dependent on something you can't control.
Exactly. Internal honesty makes your foundation independent.
That idea of an independent foundation, it leads perfectly into how we start to redefine things like self-love. It stops being, as the sources call it, aesthetic, the version you can post on Instagram.
Yes.
And it becomes intensely practical. It's less about buying yourself flowers and more about holding a really firm boundary.
Practical self-love isn't a motivational quote. It's just,
Yeah.
it's a series of quiet, deliberate choices you make.
Huh.
It's what you do when literally no one is watching.
When there's no audience.
Zero audience. It's that moment the cost of your own peace finally becomes more important than the cost of disappointing someone else.
And the sources give three just fantastic concrete examples of this. The first one is a direct attack on modern hustle culture.
Oh, this one's my favorite.
Choosing to go to bed earlier instead of trying to prove how productive or, tireless you are.
It's a huge internal boundary, isn't it? Because we're all conditioned to believe that being depleted means you're dedicated.
Right. Confusing endurance with strength.
Yes. The material is so good on this. Endurance is just It's surviving a bad situation. Strength is knowing how and when to replenish yourself so you can actually thrive. Sleep isn't a failure. It's a foundational act of strength.
That makes so much sense.
Mm.
Okay, the second example is just as powerful, but more subtle. Allowing conversations to end naturally instead of stretching them out to feel wanted.
That hits on a really deep pattern for a lot of people. We think an awkward silence or a quick ending means rejection.
Yeah, we do.
So we stretch conversations out to get that little hit of validation, like, I'm still interesting, I'm still valued. When you stop doing that, you're actively dismantling that need for external approval. You get okay with silence.
And the third example, choosing solitude. That feels like the ultimate expression of that. It's not because you're lonely, but because you're finally safe with yourself.
You're your own secure base.
Yeah.
And that is the true measure of stabilization. And this is where we get into the real work of growth. The sources are so clear. This quiet phase isn't about manifesting some new perfect life.
No.
It's about actively taking apart the old patterns that made you feel small or anxious in the first place. It's deep, quiet repair work.
So what are we taking apart exactly? The sources talk about these overrides, these quiet patterns we start to notice and stop.
The overrides are just those automatic responses we have for discomfort. You start to see just how often your own intuition got steamrolled by someone else's opinion.
Or how many times you said, it's fine, when it was absolutely not fine.
Exactly. It's the moment you stop telling yourself that story. We've been taught that just pushing through, ignoring all those signals, that's strength.
Sheer endurance.
Right. And this phase is when you realize those overrides, ignoring rest, forcing the smile, staying quiet, that's what created the problem in the first place. When you choose this quiet path, you slowly stop those automatic reactions.
Okay, but let's talk about how counterintuitive this all feels. Because this kind of deep healing, it doesn't feel the way we're told it should. We expect this, like, high-energy, dramatic comeback story.
But it's the opposite. It lacks all the usual fanfare, and because there's no external proof, it makes it really hard to trust that you're even on the right path.
When the performance stops, it feels like you're stuck.
It can feel like stagnation, for sure.
This is where the material is just essential. It highlights these unworn truths about how real healing shows up. And they are. They're difficult truths. First one, healing can feel like boredom.
Doesn't that sound terrifying? I mean, we are so addicted to drama and high emotion. If you've been living in a pattern of crisis and overgiving, your nervous system is like calibrated for that.
It's used to that high alert state.
Completely.
Yeah.
So when you take away the drama, when you finally choose peace, that stable, regulated state can feel really dull in comparison. Boredom is often the very first sign you're not running on chaos anymore.
And the second one, growth can feel like grief. We just do not talk about that enough.
That grief is so real. You're mourning the life you were living, the identities you were performing, and especially the relationships you were keeping.
Out of obligation.
Out of obligation or fear or just this desperate need to be accepted. You were literally grieving the person you had to be to survive.
And maybe the toughest one the sources bring up, self-respect might cost you relationships you once begged to keep.
That's the price of clarity. When you stop abandoning yourself, you become a boundary. And people who were really comfortable with the version of you that had no boundaries, they often can't handle the version that finally respects itself.
That's the essential pivot point.
It is.
And this pivots your entire behavior.
Yeah.
You go from chasing healing, reading every book, trying to do more, to just allowing it. What does allowing even look like day to day?
Allowing is. It's behavioral. It's resting without feeling like you have to earn it.
Right.
It's moving at your own pace, not the pace the world is screaming at you. You start letting silence teach you things that all that noise never could.
Chasing implies scarcity, right?
Right. Allowing inspiration implies that what you need is already inside you.
So what behaviors just fall away? When the performance ends, what stops?
You stop explaining yourself. If you feel like you have to defend a choice, you're still looking for validation for it, you stop overgiving. You give what's healthy and sustainable, not what's requiring you to get approval. And crucially, you stop romanticizing exhaustion.
Stopping the romanticization of exhaustion. That is huge.
It's critical. It means letting go of that deep, deep belief that your worth is tied to how depleted you are. You stop wearing burnout like a badge of honor. When you really embrace allowing, you finally rest without guilt. You understand that real strength comes from a full tank, not an empty one.
So let's bring this home for the listener. If you're in this phase right now, if your life feels quieter, if fewer people have access to, if your goals feel, I don't know, softer but deeper, The sources offer this really profound reassurance.
Richard.
You are stabilizing, not stuck.
That is the single most critical piece of insight. We are conditioned to think growth has to be this high-energy, frantic activity, but the sources show that true, sustainable growth, it doesn't start in chaos. It starts in regulation.
Regulation, that's a word that gets thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
What does it mean in this context?
In this context, regulation just means being able to handle stress without immediately reacting. It's the opposite of living in fight or flight, the human system. It can't focus on deep change when it's just trying to manage a crisis.
You can't build a house on shaky ground?
You literally can't. So you are building the infrastructure for your own resilience. You're building a nervous system that feels safe enough to grow again, and you're doing it by pulling back from the world's demand for performance.
And the result of all this quiet work is that your peace, it becomes private.
Intensely private. You don't need to perform your healing anymore. You don't need to narrate your progress online or get validation for every choice. Your peace is just yours.
That private peace can feel invisible, though, which brings us back to the challenge of trusting the process when you want to see results. But I love the metaphor here. Invisible roots grow the strongest trees.
That's it. This quiet, undramatic showing up for yourself every day, that is the essential foundation.
So if you're in that season right now, just stay there.
Stay there. That is the work. And the realization is so profound. One day you'll look back and you'll see. You didn't need to become someone new and loud and impressive. You just returned to yourself.
We've really walked the line today between performing your growth and actually living it. That silent season you might be in right now, that's the foundational work. That's you building the invisible roots, one small, honest choice at a time.
So here's the final thought. If this quiet, internal work is the true foundation of strength, what happens when you fully accept that the most important growth is the kind that no one else ever needs to see? That's the ultimate choice, isn't it? Between performing a life and actually living one.